Safe and sound at home again, let the waters roar, Jack. Safe and sound at home again, let the waters roar, Jack. Long we've tossed on the rolling main, now we're safe ashore, Jack. Don't forget your old shipmate, rolly, 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 ride-o.
Towards the end of the Second World War, with the arrival in Western European waters of the United States Liberty ships, there was an increase in demand for local pilots and boatmen to assist in the navigation of these vessels. The invasion of mainland Europe was well underway, and the English Channel was filling up with the Liberty ships which had managed to avoid the German U-boat packs in the North Atlantic. Unfortunately, many of these U.S. officers had little or no experience of the particular hazards to be encountered within the English Channel and Dover Straits. This resulted in an astonishing series of wrecks. There were also many heavily mined areas, which needed local knowledge to navigate safely. At this time, George Hammond and Company were acting as agents for many of the salvage operations that were taking place in the area. Jim Ryland, the managing director of Hammond, was responsible for setting up a service to provide North Sea pilots to help prevent more wrecks occurring. At its peak in this period, the Hammond Company provided more than 50 local pilots who boarded off Dover, and proceeded to any required northern European ports. Hammond was understandably proud of its pilotage service, and the expertise of the local boatmen it employed, who were capable of dealing with any kind of vessel in any weather conditions. Following the cessation of hostilities, Hammond's deep-sea pilotage service proved to be a successful peacetime venture. Deep-sea pilots are former ship's captains, with an extensive knowledge of the English Channel and the North Sea, and an unrivaled experience in handling many different types and size of vessels in challenging traffic situations and weather condition. All deep-sea pilots have at least 5 years command experience to offer to the ship's owners and operators. They guarantee a safe passage through some of the most congested shipping lanes in the world. A deep-sea pilot will optimize the ship's passage plan to maintain tight schedule, and an accurate ETA to the next port of call. Securing the services of a deep-sea pilot is not compulsory. Ships avail themselves of deep-sea pilots on voluntary basis. Deep-sea pilots get their credentials as North Sea and Channel pilots from Trinity House, the venerable British institution that takes its pilotage authority back to 1514, and a royal charter from Henry VIII. Under that charter, Trinity House was given responsibility for all pilots in British waters. The 1987's Pilotage Act saw Trinity House passing its district pilotage responsibilities to the various local harbour authorities. Ensuring the continuance of one of its oldest duties, Trinity House is now a licensing authority for deep-sea pilots, of whom there are currently only about 50. Trinity House deep-sea pilots are licensed for the areas highlighted in pink on this map. They must attend an interview each year to renew their pilotage license, to confirm the validity of their ENG1 medical certificates, and to demonstrate their awareness of changing to navigation and reporting requirements in the areas covered by their license. Each pilot is required to have an electronic chart system employing either vector or raster charts, which have been corrected up to date. Also required are various digital publications including Admiralty Total Tide and Admiralty Digital Radio Signals, a complete list of T&P notices and all navigational warnings in force. Monthly returns giving details of the vessels piloted and their passages must be uploaded to the Trinity House website. Vessels entering the English Channel will frequently board their deep-sea pilot at either Brixham or Cherbourg, but depending on vessel's schedule and travel time required, the pilot can board at any European port. Deep-sea pilots will normally remain on board throughout the vessel's North European rotation, disembarking at Brixham outbound. The only exception is for those vessels proceeding to the Baltic, where the pilot will disembark at the Skaw. This is because of the Baltic North Sea deep-sea pilotage demarcation line rule, where North Sea deep-sea pilots are not permitted to undertake pilotage within the Baltic, and Baltic deep-sea pilots are not permitted to work in the North Sea. Boarding and landing a ship by pilot ladder is the most dangerous task undertaken by a deep-sea pilot. When a pilot ladder is not used properly, a routine procedure can turn into a critical hazard, causing serious injuries and fatalities. Both IMO and SOLAS establish regulations and guidance on proper construction, maintenance and rigging of the pilot ladder, but despite that, many accidents still occur. 5 pilots have sadly lost their lives in recent years. Although it's not compulsory, the International Maritime Organization Resolution A1080/28, and the European Community Council Directive 79/115/EEC, both recommend use of adequately qualified deep-sea pilots for the North Sea, English Channel, and Skagerrak. Vessels using the services of deep-sea pilots include bulk carriers, car carriers, container vessels, cruise ships and very large tankers with draft in excess of 22 meters. The majority of these vessels are operated and/or owned by Far East shipping companies, in particular Japanese, Korean, and Taiwanese. Most vessels will have Filipino or Indian crews, but occasionally some ships will be manned by Chinese, Korean, Russian, Bulgarian, Romanian, Greek, American and Croatian crews. Additional safety, awareness of surroundings, ability to choose the safest course, collision avoidance skills, familiarity with congested waters and VTS reporting schemes, are amongst the various benefits of employing a deep-sea pilot. During the passages between ports, the presence of the deep-sea pilot will relieve the bridge team members from the anxiety and distress that might reasonably be expected due to increased workload in a busy and complex navigational environment such as the North Sea, the English Channel, and the Skagerrak. The master and his officers will be able to rest or prepare for the next port, confident that the deep-sea pilot is well rested, he has deep-sea command experience, he's a very competent bridge team member, and highly experienced in deep-sea navigation and local reporting requirements. The pilot has the local knowledge to plan the safest and most direct routes, therefore saving time, fuel and charter rates. These savings can often cover the cost for the deep-sea pilotage service, particularly when the bunker fuel price is high. This clip shows the GPS traces of 24 hours worth of shipping as it passes through the channel. Streams of northeast-bound ships pass near the French coast, and those traveling southwest-bound are restricted to the English coastline. In between, countless ferries dodge across the strait. The channel is one of the busiest international waterways in the world. More than 400 commercial vessels go across the strait on daily basis. Also, many fishing vessels, pleasure crafts, and even swimmers can be regularly encountered in these waters. The numerous wrecks on the seabed are testament to the channel's importance as a trade route. One of the busiest shipping channels in the world, with high volumes of large commercial cargo vessels, tankers, fishing vessels and cross-channel passenger ferries, the Dover Strait forms part of the first IMO-approved traffic separation scheme in the world. The English Channel is a funnel-shaped shelf sea, where the commercial navigation is restricted by a series of shallow banks which lie northeast and southwest in mid-channel. Along these shoals, strong tidal streams with spring rates to up to 4 knots are often encountered. The complex tidal currents from the Atlantic and the North Sea, meeting with the narrow topography of the English Channel, can give rise to rough seas with steep, breaking waves. To add further pressure to ships' masters, Poor weather conditions are very frequent, especially in autumn and winter months. Weather conditions in the strait are subject to rapid change. The visibility is often poor, changing quickly to dense fog, even in strong or gale force winds which can last for several days. On the 11th of January 1971, the Panamanian tanker Texaco Caribbean was on a ballast voyage from the Netherlands to Trinidad when she was struck by the 12,000-ton Peruvian freighter Paracas in thick fog. The latter ignored the shipping lanes of Dover Straits and took the shorter way along the English coast. The Texaco Caribbean exploded, split in two and sank, releasing 600 tons of bunker. 8 sailors lost their lives in the incident and 22 were rescued. The British coastal authorities placed 3 vertical green lights on site to warn other ships of the presence of the wreck. However, the following day the West German freighter Brandenburg hit the Texaco Caribbean, and sank a few minutes later. Lifeboats did not have the time to arrive. Only 11 out of 32 crew members were rescued by local fishing boats. The bodies of 7 crew members were found and 14 remained missing. A light ship and 5 light buoys were added on site, but on the 27th of February, the Greek vessel Niki, sailing from Dunkirk to Alexandria, ignored the warnings and collided with the submerged wrecks. The tanker Hebris was in the area at the same time. The crew saw the Niki sinking and sent radio messages. The Hebris came closer as people were seen at sea, but when she arrived on site there was nobody left. The Niki went down with her entire crew of 22. A total of 51 persons lost their life in the pileup. On the 5th of December 2012, the Bahamas-registered vehicle carrier Baltic Ace collided with the Cyprus-registered feeder container vessel Corvus J within the Nordhinder Junction area of the southern North Sea. At the time of the collision, the Corvus J was en route to Steenbank Pilot Station, and the Baltic Ace had just left Wondola Pilot Station. The severity of the collision resulted in structural damage to both vessels. Unfortunately, the damage sustained by the Baltic Ace resulted in catastrophic hull plating breach, causing the vessel to sink within 15 minutes after impact. Despite an immediate evacuation from the vessel being initiated, of the 24 crew on board only 13 were rescued, 8 recovered deceased and 3 remain missing, presumed deceased. More recently, on the 1st of July 2017, 2 Hong Kong-registered vessels, the bulk carrier Haoyang Endeavour and the oil tanker Sea Frontier, collided in the Dover Strait approximately 5 nautical miles to the west of Sandetti Bank. Both vessels were damaged in the collision, but were able to proceed to nearby ports for damage assessment. Fortunately, the accident did not result in any injuries or pollution. Perhaps this could have been avoided if a deep-sea pilot had been on board. Despite all the training and the technical improvements of the navigation aids, accidents will continue to happen, and most probably there is no substitute for an additional pair of experienced eyes on the bridge. The practice of following predetermined routes for shipping originated in 1898, and was adopted, for reasons of safety, by shipping companies operating passenger ships across the North Atlantic. Related provisions were subsequently incorporated into the original SOLAS Convention. Traffic separation schemes and other ships' routing systems have now been established in most of the major congested shipping areas of the world, and the number of collisions and groundings has often been dramatically reduced. Rule 10 of the Coal Regs prescribes the conduct of vessels when navigating through traffic separation schemes adopted by IMO. To further enhance ships' safety, vessel traffic services, shoreside radio stations with the purpose to provide active monitoring and navigational advice for vessels in particularly confined and busy waterways, were also established.
The passage plan starts to take its form when I first get notified of my next assignment. Generally speaking, I receive a phone call or an email a few days before I'm due to join a ship. I then start to research the internet for additional information about the ship. Things like ship's particulars and maneuvering characteristics. Then it's time to download the Admiralty Notices to Mariners for all my charts and publications, just to make sure they're all up to date. Once I've done that, I will plot the waypoints for the intended passage on all my charts. On the last day at home, I will check for the latest navigational warnings and weather forecast for the next couple of days. Once on board, I will meet with the captain on the bridge and exchange information about the ship, passage, intended speed and ETA to the next port. Then I will take the con. While at the con, you have to put in practice what you've planned, thinking ahead all the time. You've got to constantly calculating where the ship will be in relation to the other ships and surroundings in the next 45 minutes, 1 hour. Sometimes heavy traffic can force you to walk down to fire cables clearance. So you always have to expect the unexpected.
Crews of hard-pressed ships will probably have to deal with adverse weather conditions, heavy commercial traffic, fishing vessels, pleasure crafts, swimmers crossing ferries, strong tides and currents, sandbanks and sand waves, wind farms, traffic separation schemes and lots of other hazards. Accidents, unfortunately, will continue to happen, but to mitigate them and to greatly increase safety at sea, deep sea pilots are available to provide expert advice and assistance. A Hammond pilot is with you all the way.